Okay, good morning, Catherine and Piers. Today I will be discussing my task 10 novel analysis of both these texts, the Jasper Jones and the White Girl. I will be both comparing the similarities and differences, as well as uncovering their worth of the novels through their language features, stylistic choices, and characterization. Okay, and so we begin. Next slide. So about these texts. So I chose these texts to analyze, like I've said before, because they share quite a few attributes with both prejudice and racial discrimination towards Aboriginals, as well as they're both set in the same time period. And you know about the White Girl because you guys have studied it, but Jasper Jones is from an old text that I've studied from my senior years of my previous school. And I believe it's, even in terms of plot and story, it has a greater structure than the White Girl. And so next, how I will split this up is I will be comparing or analyzing the White Girl first, as you can see by that visual. And so now let me explain. So the context. So the action takes place in Denis in the 1960s, as you guys are aware, where Aboriginal people are under legal control of their protectors, which are the police. And that's a nice visual created by myself to display that they're imprisoned, and as well as that the Aboriginals required, if they want to leave the town, they have to receive permission, and it's heavily against the law. It's like living in the military, and essentially. And Denis is a dying town on a river, and as you can read, the Aboriginals have a very distasteful dislike for the white man, and the two main characters. This is the likeness as the main character. What we see through the novel is Odette, this elderly Aboriginal woman. And this is the likeness, based off of Sissy. And you see, I will be, and the characterization of Odette and how she is portrayed as a strong-minded, determined, confident, wise protector of her daughter, who will go to nothing, or they'll go to everything to try and protect her daughter and stand up to her aggressors. And so that's how she's portrayed, as I've done with comparing that to the authenticity of Serena Williams, because that's how she actually appears to myself when I imagine Odette. And so the authorial voice, which is Odette Brown. So Odette, to give some context to her, she's an Aboriginal elder living on the outskirts of the city of Denis, in a township, and she's Aboriginal herself, and essentially she's taken care of her daughter Sissy, which was abandoned by her mother, which is Odette's daughter. And so through Odette, we uncover the plight of the Aboriginal woman and their struggles and what she experiences through the violence that she experiences from the white man, and we uncover that her past and backstory, and how she's endured a lifetime of being ostracized and dealing with corrupt policemen. And through this is a quote to display how she was a very powerful character and the worth of Odette. So this is to Bill, a policeman in the story, which represents the kind and empathetic policemen who had empathy and sympathy towards the Aboriginal woman. So from here, she's very upfront, and she confronts him. I'll tell you what, Bill, to my own shame, most of my life I haven't been able to do anything without your lot, the white man, and you have power over me. Why help me now? And from this quote, Odette relieves that she's a confident elderly woman, and then establishes it, and then what the policeman Bill, which was a childhood friend, it could only say sorry. And so, but you see, sorry doesn't cut it in this instance because he becomes very submissive and he doesn't know how to handle the situation, and all he can say is sorry. And so now the controversial aspects in the story. So obviously there's explicit violence in the story of the white girl towards Aboriginals and what is being portrayed as the white man. And so the political history embedded in the story, as well as the Aboriginals' survival against the odds, like for say the stolen generation, for say that occurred in Australia around this time, and what this plot heavily revolves around, and the Aboriginal identity and persecution. Another strong theme is the destruction of families, because through her death, her family has been broken and all pieced together, and she has to really find the courage to give her daughter Sissy a well and balanced lifestyle, even under these conditions. And so the overall worth of the white girl, this is a visual, this is from the Australian 1910 album, or cover, or on that day, of the Australian The White Man's Land, produced in 1910. And this just sums up the attitude of the white man towards the Aboriginals. And from the white girl, I believe it really provided insight into the living standards of Aboriginals at that time, because Tony Birch, the author, used Odette's voice to convey also his perspectives, because he's an Aboriginal himself, but and so he understands that feeling of being discriminated against even now. And so he's placed in the 1960s, where it was potent enough and where the whites-only policy was most prominent. And it also produces, what the white girl also does really well, is providing the psyche of the Aboriginal into their religious values of how they value the land and their cultural oppression, and their views on the stolen generations and the white man and how they experience violence. And I said before, and this is all just before the point where the a white-only policy was halted in the 1970s. And so now the language features of the white girl. So here I'm providing examples like these. So the messages that the white girl protrudes across of this racism and the typical Aussie nature is through colloquial Australian slang, dialogue, and the narrative itself is a linear plot. It provides an introduction, as a middle section where it has rising conflict, and then a conclusion. And so, to quote, a white local, it's Henry Lamb, they retired from the junkyard, and shit, you're some distance from Quarry Town to Sissy. This is from the Kane brothers, one of the, who Odette actually nursed and raised them as a nursemaid, but they've turned out to be sort of the typical, Aussie at that time, quite racially persuaded. And then in the final quote, does she look like an abo to you, George? Now this, just embeds the actual colloquial language and slang that the Australians used at the time, and even now, but less repetitively. And so now I will compare Jasper Jones and why I think it's a great novel. And so, beginning with a bit of context for my peers, so the plot takes place in the 1960s town in Corrigan. Hey Dad, we can grab that. We can pause it